Hello and welcome to the Alberta Council of Disability Services Accreditation webinar series. My name is Corrine Thomas. Before we start, I'd like to let you know that the notes for this presentation are available on the ACDS website. In addition, feel free to pause the video at any time should you want some independent discussion. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Site Survey Process, Timelines and Conversations presentation. My name is Corrine Thomas and I want to take the next 10 minutes or so and talk to you about what it would look like when the CET surveyors come to your organization and do the site survey. Every 3 years, organizations are evaluated against a set of accreditation standards, and this is called an on-site survey. ACDS uses a peer review model for these site surveys. What that means is people from the sector with experience in the sector are the ones that are trained by ACDS to do these evaluations. You could have anywhere from 1 to 4 surveyors come depending on the size of your survey. They would be at your organization from anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Typically, most surveys are 2 surveyors, a team leader and a team member over 3 days. In order to ensure that the survey gets off on the right foot and in the most positive way, we ask that the service provider showcase what they're about and take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to talk about what they're most proud of, to talk about the services they offer, and provide a brief overview. It might be a good opportunity for individuals or staff or guardians to come in and talk about why they like the services that they're receiving or the work that they're doing. It's also important for the service provider to review the questions that were given by the surveyors prior to the survey and try to address some of those questions as well. By doing this, it adds a personality and life to the paperwork that the surveyors have been reviewing before the survey. It's also important to talk to the survey team, the team leader specifically, before the survey and work out this agenda for this meeting to ensure there's enough time for this presentation as well as time for the surveyors to ask the questions that need to be asked. The second part of the organizational framework meeting is for the survey team to ask questions. No matter how prepared you are for a site survey, surveyors are always going to have questions. And we want surveyors to make the best use of the time during this meeting. So if there's a group of questions that relate to maybe just human resources or just behaviors of concern, they might ask to talk to one person or one department and schedule that for a different time during the site survey rather than taking the time up in this meeting. The final part of this meeting, the organizational framework meeting, is to review the itinerary of what's going to happen on the next few days while the survey team is on site. The Organizational Framework Meeting 2 is specifically to meet with the board or senior management, if they haven't already had opportunity to meet, to discuss overall planning, financial information, board governance, outcome evaluation, those types of topics. It's a shorter meeting, but still a necessary meeting. In terms of participant conversations, these are conversations with the individuals and their support networks, so their guardians, their family, their friends. And this is really important and takes a bulk of the survey time. Each participant has a social map and a service map. So the social map is their family and friends and guardian, where their service map is the staff that provides them support with the organization that's being surveyed. Together, this set of conversations is what we call a conversation set. We allow 3 hours per conversation set to allow for the different conversations to occur, as well as some time for the surveyors to compile and rate the indicators before moving on to the next conversation. The first conversation that occurs is called the reliability check. This is a conversation where both surveyors sit in on the conversation, one asking the questions and one taking notes. It's a quality control mechanism to ensure that both surveyors are understanding the information and are applying it to the standards in the same way. We want to make sure that the individual that is chosen for the reliability check is comfortable with more than one person talking to them. So it's not necessarily to put the first person that ACDS has chosen on the list. You can decide who would best fit the role in the reliability check. This is a sample of what a conversation set might look like. It's important for the integrity of the survey that each conversation be separate. It helps us get the most objective information possible. However, we recognize that individuals may or may not want to have a conversation alone with a surveyor, and so they can have the guardian or staff sit in with them if that would make them feel more comfortable. However, we would ask that the guardian and the staff be available for additional conversations afterwards because there are additional information that we need to gather and some of it is more sensitive in nature. So this is what a sample timeline might look like. And if you know by that timeline that the frontline or key worker staff is who we want to speak to when it comes to these conversations. They have the best knowledge because they provide the direct support to that individual, and that is the purpose of this conversation. Feel free to adjust timelines to make them work for you and then let the person know. We recognize how busy people are, and knowing that a guardian only needs to be available from 9:45 to 10:30, or a key worker that is key worker for more than one individual only has to be available at 11, helps free up people's time, and we want to be accommodating to this. Please also note that we don't want to see a guardian and staff having a conversation at the same time, nor do we want to see two staff having conversations at the same time. The second and subsequent days, if you're in a larger survey, are for the remaining conversations and are distributed between the surveyors. Time also must be allocated before each conversation for the surveyors to be able to review the files of the individuals and staff. This helps them become familiar with goals, so when they're asking questions about goals that everyone is on the same page, as well if there's any behaviors of concern or any triggers that the surveyors need to be aware of, that can be reviewed beforehand as well. In addition to the files of the individuals and staff that are chosen for the survey, we ask that additional files of individuals and staff be available to review. For a level 1 survey, that's an additional 5%, and for level 2, it's an additional 10%. Throughout the 3-day survey, it might become apparent that we need to talk to an additional group of people or a department in more detail in order to get a good cross-section of information for the survey report that's completed later. There is time on the itinerary to allow for that, and the team leader or the survey team might come to you and ask for that. Day 3, or the final day, has the exit conference. This can be done in the morning or the afternoon, depending on whether the survey team needs to review any additional last-minute information before leaving. While the survey team cannot give you a final pass or fail, they will give their general observations of the survey, provide an overview of the survey, and outline any areas where they're still missing information and that might lead to not present indicators, so that you have one more opportunity to provide that evidence if you have it. Once the survey is complete, the final report is distributed by ACDS within 6 to 8 weeks after the survey, and a certificate is forwarded from PDD after that time as well. Conversations are only one mechanism that surveyors use to gather information. As you can see, there's file reviews, documentation reviews such as templates and forms. We review policy and also look at observations. In addition, in a standard size survey, there are 5 conversations that we have, so 5 of those conversation sets. Don't worry if you don't know the answer or think you screwed up on an answer, because there are additional ways and additional conversations that are used to gather the information to see that it is mostly there. Conversations occur with different groups of people. In terms of the individuals receiving service, we want to look at a full picture of the services provided. And so we would talk to the individuals, guardians, and any family that are directly involved on a regular basis. Conversations with individuals and their guardians cover the quality of life section of the standards. If an individual is nonverbal, or is unable to answer questions, then the guardian can speak on their behalf and those indicators will still be rated. As a reminder, there are additional questions that will be asked of the guardian as well. Conversations with staff focus on 2 different areas. The first is the direct support they provide to the individuals. The second is around more the organizational framework when it comes to behaviors of concern and the training that received and the information around general practices around those things. In addition, questions will be asked about human resources as well. The conversations from the frontline staff predominantly cover the quality of service standards though. When we look at the organizational framework meeting that I talked about before, that gathers most of the information, and those are the conversations that we mostly have with management. However, there might be other opportunities that surveyors need to talk to management, and that would focus mostly on the organizational framework component of the standards. So you might ask, what do these questions look like? Well, ACDS has developed a list of sample questions for each indicator of the CET manual, and that is called Areas to Explore. So if you're an individual or a guardian, I would focus on the quality of life section. If you're a staff member providing direct support, I would focus on the quality of service section. If you're management, I would ensure that you're familiar with the whole manual, but focus on the organizational framework questions. Thank you for taking time to walk through what it would look like when surveyors come on site and do a site survey. If you have any additional questions or want additional information, please feel free to email us. Thank you and good luck as you prepare for CET.